Hey there, Meeple Syrup Show coming to you from Origins 2015 in lovely Columbus, Ohio. We're here with Scott Gaeta from Renegade Games. He is kindly joining us to discuss a whole whack of stuff that we think you designers are going to be interested in. So take it away, Daryl. Let's ask him his first question.
Yeah, well, we asked you on Periscope, but sadly with Periscope, it's not going to be up forever. So if you didn't see the Periscope, one of the questions we asked was, how can someone pitch a game to Renegade? Because our viewers often have designs, but there maybe even they've never pitched before.
Right.
So
the first step would be go to our website. Follow the links to, there's actually a page for submissions.
Yep.
It tells you what we're looking for and what we're not looking for. The first thing I would say that we're not looking for is don't bring me a game that's, that is based on, like, this is a Captain America game.
Right.
Well, okay.
Absolutely. Although we'll come back talking about
we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. But then you can see conventions that we're going at.
Yeah.
And that's by far the best way to pitch your game is to do it in person.
Yep.
Come to the convention. We can sit down, even if it's for only 5 or 10 minutes.
Sure.
We can talk about it. I can ask you questions.
Yeah, we watched you have a pitch that was like 3-5 minutes long, right?
Yeah. And he pitched me 2 games in like 5 minutes or so. And,
Great.
Gave me some prototypes. He was really prepared.
Excellent.
Had some prototypes for me to take back and play. We'll probably try to play them this weekend.
Perfect.
So see if we're going to be in a convention that you can get to or in your area, and email us and set up an appointment. That's great. I will always make room for pitches as long as there's room to be had, right?
Absolutely.
So I'd love to look at new games. The next thing is, go to like a designer speed dating, or see if we're going to be in an Unpub or something, or an Unpub mini.
Yep.
Last but not least, you can always send us a sell sheet via email. Don't send us a prototype blind.
No.
No, that's bad. It scares us when we get random packages.
They're ticking.
They're ticking, and
anthrax in them.
Yeah, no, that's not good.
Absolutely. Those are great.
And then, then we might come back to you and say, hey, we're kind of interested in hearing more. We'll set up a conference call or a Skype or something. Sometimes you can walk us through via Skype.
For sure.
And then last but not least, we might ask you for prototypes so we can play.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of Skype and things like that, would you review a video that somebody posted to YouTube?
Yeah,
or
definitely. Yeah, we have people now. It's getting really great, right? Like we get links. Oh, here's a video, playthrough video. One thing I'll say is if you have a playthrough video, focus the camera on the game.
Oh, yes.
Not you talking about the game. Like, we want to see the game. We want to see how everything plays.
Right.
But yeah, it's really it's great. It's so much easier nowadays than it used to be.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
So you said what shouldn't be a Renegade game. What is a Renegade game in your mind?
So I don't like to pigeonhole us, but it should be something that plays in under 90 minutes.
Okay.
My sweet spot is probably 30 to 60 minutes. But I'm not opposed to something that goes 90 minutes if I feel that the quality of that play experience is justified for a 90-minute use of people's time. We want things that can have the potential to break out of just the hardcore, like those of us that come to conventions and love tabletop gaming. We want the people that might like tabletop gaming to be able to come and play the game.
Maybe. Yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. So if your game is like super hardcore or super derivative of other things that have been done, it's probably not the right fit for us.
Yep.
The other thing is, and this is definitely not a qualifier for pitching a prototype, like we will take care of art and making the game beautiful, but if for some reason you have a partner that helps make your prototype beautiful, that never hurts.
Never hurts.
Yeah, definitely doesn't hurt.
Okay. And do they have to be like Mensa award-winning quality already? Just wondering. Just asking.
It seems like the standard.
Yeah, it seems like the standard you set for Renegade games.
That's one award. It's nice to get those. But no, that's not and who's to say? I like the way they run their competition. It's they have 300 plus people spending 4 days.
Yeah.
They take about 60 games, and they're actually based on people playing the game and then voting for the game. It's not a random magazine award where some editors,
someone in the back room decided.
Yeah. So it's cool. No, that's not like this wouldn't be viable to be submitted to that, but I think Mensa is a good barometer for these are people that are game-minded people, but aren't necessarily the most hardcore of gamers.
Nice spectrum.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, also, you've had a lot of experience working with different intellectual properties.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about what it's like for acquiring that? Like, what's the behind the scenes? You know, for people that are curious and think, oh, I could just get an IP.
Right.
You know, I'll just pay for that. And also, two-parter. Also, how do you decide, like, when as a publisher, when to bring that into the discussion?
Well, I mean, there's two. Okay, so I guess the first part of the question is so I started at Decipher was where I got my first real industry job, and we made Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and Star Trek and Beyblade and a bunch of other stuff. And working on licensed stuff is a double-edged sword. So the awesome thing about a license is it brings you this audience, right? It brings you a giant audience. The downside about licensing is that you're playing in somebody else's sandbox, so you have to play by their rules.
Sure.
You know, if they don't want stormtroopers running around murdering Tusken Raiders in your game, then you can't do it, right? Even though maybe that's the theme of your game is, you know, Jawa or the Tusken Raiders, you know, murdering small children. No,
that's not happening.
So they're not going to let you do it.
Yeah, Disney right now, anyways.
Right. You know, back in the day, sure. No problem.
Disney
have Anakin running around on a rampage. So it's awesome, but it's much more difficult than, right? If you're making your own game, you make your own decisions and do whatever you want.
Total flexibility.
For right or wrong, they're your decisions.
Yep.
When you work within the studio system, everything gets approved.
Yep.
And sometimes might not be getting approved by people that even understand what you're doing. So you have to educate them and get them on board. And at the end of the day, their decision is final.
Yeah, because they might just stick us on an oopoly game.
Right. Right. And you know, and there's a place for that too. But that does kind of, so there's two schools of thought on design for licensed games. Some people
take notes.
Yeah, and I'm definitely favor one over the other. So one is to take a game and skin it, and put a license on top of a game, and that's okay. But kind of the way I was brought up in licensing was you start off with the property, and then you build a game that makes you feel like representative of that brand. It makes you feel like you're playing in that world. So like, you know, again, I started my career in Star Wars CCG and Star Trek CCG, and those games were Star Trek experiences and Star Wars experiences. They
so you create the experience.
Yeah, and I think that if you're going to do a license, that's the way to do it, because as a fan of Star Wars or Marvel or whatever it is, I want a Marvel experience. I want a Star Wars experience.
Absolutely. And then that way the design is really is being informed by the theme.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because you want to add something, especially nowadays, right? People are so passionate about the properties that they follow, and you want to add more to that. You want to give them value. You know, I want to feel like I'm a Jedi, or I want to feel like I'm Spider-Man. I don't want to basically just have a generic, you know, Spider-Man marker that I move around the board that really has nothing to do with.
I'm not a Jedi?
Right.
You mean I'm not a Jedi?
I heard you were a Jedi.
I'm pretty Jedi.
He is actually the closest thing to a Jedi I know.
Okay. So, I don't know, as far as advice, my advice for designers is not to pitch something to a publisher that is based on a license. It's you probably don't even know if they could even get the rights, if they wanted the rights. It's just not a good use of your time. If the publisher is going after a license or already has the rights to a license, they're probably already working with somebody or working internally, or they have a relationship with another designer that they did something, they said, hey, let's work on game X. It's just, if you're trying to get published for the first time, it's such a small shot in the dark that you might pitch to the one guy that can want to do that specific thing that you're doing.
They might all want to, but they all can't.
Or they all can't. Or even if you know, like, if you know that, you know, X company is already making games with that license, they've got their 2, 3, 4 year license planned out already. So it's just not a good use of your time. Make something original that's innovative, that's fresh, that does something different, and that's much more likely to get your foot in the door. And then it might, if your dream is to make licensed games, it can lead to that.
Absolutely.
So why the move away from licenses?
Well, I mean, I've done licenses for a long time. So this is, I don't know, started doing games 96, so
Right.
my 19th year. It's not that I don't ever want to do licenses. I just felt I wanted to change. Wanted to focus on, like Lanterns is a really good example. Gravwell was a really good example of something that's a little different, a little fresher. Not that you couldn't take a game, say like Gravwell is a really good example of started with a really great game.
Yep.
If that
It
game
could have been,
grows,
yeah.
but that doesn't mean we couldn't do a licensed versions of
Sometime,
Gravwell.
yeah.
Like we could, like Star Trek would make a
Yeah,
That'd
yeah,
be
Star Trek
Gravwell,
amazing,
right?
Absolutely.
Starwell, Grab Track.
Grab track.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Speaking of Gravwell,
Yeah.
because Corey's here, but without getting into specific numbers, what do you think the effect of an award like
Yes.
the Mensa Select is on a game like Gravwell sales-wise?
Okay. I can tell you anecdotally right after Gravwell won. So Gravwell came out in December of 2013.
Yep.
We were kind of late. It came out literally a week or so before Christmas.
Yeah,
so we
yeah,
really
a
missed
bit
the
late,
Christmas
yeah.
season. It was selling pretty well. And then the awards were announced, I think a little earlier that year than they were this year. I think it was probably late March, early
Yeah.
April. And we were sold out by June.
There you go.
So, and then I can tell you with Lanterns, the shipment just came in. Randy fulfilled all his Kickstarters. The street date happened. Mensa Select was 2 weeks later.
Which is crazy.
And we won, and we were sold out in 10 days after that.
With the 90 left. that
Yeah,
were for here.
I put aside, I had 90 games that we put aside for Origins because I was panicking going, we're not going to have
Sure.
any games,
Sure.
any Lanterns on our Origins booth.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're sold out, and our distributors are all sold out.
Yeah.
And
So
we're-
sold it at publisher level, sold it at distributor level.
And I'm hearing great numbers from stores. Stores telling me that they've already sold 30, 40, 50 copies.
It's got a great price point. It's a great entry level game. It's won the award. It looks beautiful on the table.
Yeah.
It's actually a really cool mechanic. For those of you who don't know, play the game. Just get
Play
it.
the game.
Put Scott out of his 90 misery and buy all those games that are left here at Origins.
They might be gone by the time
We've
I
already
get back to them.
we've already said this on the show, JR on his and me on ours, that I think this is a spiel du jour. Not jinxing it, but
No.
I think so. I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
get prepared to order it in an order of magnitude.
Yeah, and I mean that's the story behind this was that I saw the Kickstarter video for it, and I watched it, and his Kickstarter video was great. It gave you a nice little walkthrough. It wasn't too long, and it was just perfect.
Just
Randy did a
right.
phenomenal
Yes.
job on it, and I watched it and I was jealous, and I said,
That's actually
I
pretty
was like,
sad.
yeah, I was jealous. I was like, oh, if that design, because that's when I did Gravwell.
Yeah.
Corey pitched it to me at Gen Con 2012,
Right.
Yeah.
and he pitched it to me, and we played a couple games, and I said, okay, I'll make it.
Yeah.
And I told him right on the spot, and I said this was one of those games where I would have
Yeah.
said, okay, done, let's make it.
Yeah.
And Randy was,
Yep.
Randy was just as smart. So he did it, and then Randy and I met each other, and it was actually at BGG Con last year in November.
Yeah.
And
So I mean, just after you signed it.
yeah,
Mhm.
12 months.
yeah, and I met him there, and I said, so Kickstarter, you're going to do all that, and that's great. What's your plan after Kickstarter? And he's like, well, I don't know yet. I said, well, let's talk. So
Yes.
we talked and formed a partnership.
Wonderful.
Very interesting.
So
And
it
that's,
works for everybody.
that's so cool. I think there's a lot of really neat models of business practice in game industry today that before, when there wasn't as much, I don't know, there wasn't as much collegiality amongst North American publishers, but now it seems that everybody's
Finding the
very
right
friendly and
collaboration.
collaborating on certain things.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're in bed together
No.
forever, but that when it makes sense and it's something you wanted to do and he wanted to do and he wanted to do better and you wanted to make it better,
Yeah.
that
Yep.
it just makes it
Makes it better.
thing. You
Right,
know?
yeah.
We were talking to Chris Kirkman about the merger between Dice Hate Me and Greater Than Games, and
Mhm.
this is
Similar,
kind of a similar
yeah.
story, not a merger,
Different,
but
but yeah.
partnerships,
Yeah,
right?
It's a partnership, and
I
we're
think that's great.
working on another game. So,
Excellent.
Oh,
So a little hint right there.
Yeah.
So
and it's a really nice game. I also like things that are pretty, right? Like, I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
especially
He
nowadays.
is from San Diego,
Yeah,
like
from
kind of
San
the
Diego.
nicest place.
One
in
of
the
the
world.
most beautiful places.
Yeah.
The
So-
weather is never bad.
I know. Every time I get on the plane to leave, I'm like, it's always a downgrade.
But then you can go home.
That's
At
true.
least then you're happy to go
There's
home.
nothing like walking out of the San Diego airport. It's right on the ocean, and you just get
Yes.
that ocean air.
Oh
It's like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's magical. But yeah, I mean that's another important point. And designers don't have to be as worried about this. Like their job is to design a good game. Don't worry about theme and artwork so much. If that's something that you really enjoy, that's all good too. But you know, at the end of the day, you want to have a partner that also will make your game look as beautiful as it should, because there's sometimes some games come out that are awesome games, but they don't present as well as they could, and they're just gonna kind of get overlooked.
So that's where it's important to find the right publisher that has, you know, a nice design sensibility, putting out some good games. They're probably going to continue to make great games.
Or a publisher that has a design sensibility that you like too, because then you won't be sad. You know, I've heard those stories too from some designers that they sign their game, they're really happy, and then it goes off, and then the finished one that comes out, they're a little disappointed in because, you know, they pictured a beautiful painted box, and they wound up with more of a graphically designed, illustrated box, and they should be happy too. Yeah. I mean, it should be a collaboration.
Yep. Great. Yeah. Well, one last question we always ask our guests, and that is just any design tips that you would give a new designer.
Okay. The first thing I would say is try not to be derivative. You know, if a game comes out and it's hot, don't immediately say, you know, I need to start making tile games like with Magic.
Sure.
100 Lantern clones.
Yeah, I mean, and
because people will know.
Yeah, they'll know, and we do see a lot of that. And I understand it's hard. I'm not a game designer, so I'm not pretending that this is an easy task. But you know what? The games that are special and break out, it's not easy to do something new and fresh and different. Doesn't mean it has to do everything, something that's never been seen before. But I can tell you, if you can't describe your game to me by comparing it to another game, it's a good sign, right? So it's,
I see.
You know what I'm saying?
You don't say it's Monopoly plus checkers.
Right.
That's bad.
Right.
Well, it's bad anyway.
That's bad anyway. It's like the worst.
Like, where are you going with it?
I don't know, man. Apparently not to Renegade.
That's the worst nightmare of mashup ever.
Oh, I don't know. Checkers, chess plus Monopoly might be even worse. Yeah, that'd be bad too.
But yeah, and get out there and read and network. You know, there's lots of good information out on the internet. You know, make your sell sheet. Narrow your pitch down. Be able to pitch your game in 5 minutes. Because sometimes you may get a half hour, but sometimes you may only literally get an elevator pitch. You might run into a publisher, you know, walking around the con, and you've got 5 minutes to make an impression. Because there's a lot of people pitching.
I've done it in 3 seconds.
3 seconds. It was Monopoly meets checkers.
No, but it was really close to that description.
It was, imagine 7 Wonders meets Scrabble.
Oh, there you go.
Boom.
So on that note,
it didn't get signed, but
work on your
it
pitch.
was a very good pitch.
Keep working on your pitch. Maybe you'll be at Gen Con and you can give your pitch there. Thanks for watching, and we'll keep making some great videos for you while we're here at Origins.
Yeah, thanks very much, Scott.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks, guys.
You want to turn off?
No, I'm just going to let it run.
Cool. Well.